So this is building a better business. And I'm here with Tish today. And so we're just talking about, first of all, how you find this free meetup. And we are the second Friday of every month at 10 a.m. And it's always the same Zoom code. So for those of you that have been on the call before, if you click the little shield up in the corner, it gives you a Zoom code when you're on your Zoom, and you can save that to your calendar or however, and that way you don't have to try to look it up every month when you want to tap in, and you can just put it right into your calendar. Now, for those of you that either do or do not know, under kathybinner.com, I do have a calendar, and you can go right there and actually save the events over to your Google Calendar. If you use Google Calendar, it'll actually save it right from the calendar. So you don't even have to retype it, and it'll give you all the information. Now, when we do this meetup on Build a Better Business, we go through 12 different topics. And the first topic, starting in January, we talk about your VPS, your value proposition statement. What is your promise to your audience? What is it that you're delivering? And we sometimes call that our 30-second commercial, our elevator speech, all those things. And folks try to get too fancy with those. They have these big words, you know, and because they want to craft this amazing sentence that says everything that they do. And sometimes they get carried away to where your audience is kind of like, I still don't know what they do. And so I like to make it nice and short and sweet. And then I change it up depending on who my audience is. So for example, I just say, I help folks create passive income so they don't have to punch a time clock. And then people will lean in and say, well, what's passive income? See, and that opens up the conversation. But if I get too carried away and try to tell you all my different lanes and all the different podcasts and all that, people are going to, you know, go, okay, I just wanted to know. I just want to know what you do. I don't want to know how you do it. And so you have to be careful not being on overkill there. And then in February, we talked all about how your storytelling is your marketing. And because I can say, I have this great candle, please buy my candle. And some people will buy it. But if I say, boy, you know, the other night, I just really wanted to create a romantic evening, and I discovered this candle, and I love the scent so much that I decided to share it in my blog, and then have a picture, maybe you and your significant other with your wine and the candle. And you can see where more people would want to buy the candle because you had a story surrounding the candle instead of just saying, buy my candle. And so we talk all about how creating and crafting your story is so important in all of your marketing, because that is your marketing. And I have a gal right now, she does essential oils, and she's just kind of announcing the oils. And I keep wanting to coach her a little bit on how to put a story around it, but she hasn't had time to sit down with me yet. But I desperately want to show her how, if she could just craft a story around those oils, that her sales would actually go up, because people start to connect with her, and then they go, well, if she loves it, then I'm sure I'm going to love it. And so it's all about that storytelling. And once you create your story, and in a nutshell, your story is going to be just like the Disney brand. You're going to say, once upon a time, here's where I was, but then I discovered this system. I discovered this product. I discovered this course, whatever it is, whatever your product or service is. And now I want to share it with you. And that basically becomes your story. Now, once you craft that story, you can move yourself right on into being a blogger, a public speaker, all of those things, because your story is your story. And now, if somebody says, well, we need you to speak for an hour, you can speak about your story. If somebody wants you to speak for 20 minutes, you can speak about your story. See, so your story is kind of like an accordion once you have your story. You know, I can say I was a single mom, and I was working a minimum wage job, but then I got into the cosmetology field, and I discovered that investing in real estate through salons was going to be, you know, a huge benefit to me. And once I discovered how to create that passive income, I'm now on the other end and retired. And now I want to show you how to do that. And so that's the outline of the story. But if I'm talking to cosmetologists, I'm going to spend more time in that cosmetology area. If I'm talking to real estate investors, I'm going to spend more time in that real estate area. If I'm talking to single moms, I'm going to spend more time in that single mom being broke, paycheck to paycheck area of my story. So you see where your story, you can kind of squeeze it or expand it to whatever time you have. Now, out of that story, oh my goodness, look at all the products and services that can be connected to your story. And then once you decide what lane you want to be in, what products and services you want, that's when we start talking all about how your serving is your selling. You now have your VPS, you now have your story, and now you're like, well, where am I going to share this story? And that's what we're going to talk about today is your serving is selling and how to come alongside some influencers to serve them, because you're ready to serve your audience. You already know what your message is. You know what your story is. You kind of in the back of your mind, you already know what your products and services are going to be. And so you can serve your audience, but you don't have an audience yet. So how do you get an audience? And that's where you come alongside an influencer that has the same audience that would also be your audience. You don't have to have the same products that they have or the same services that they have. As a matter of fact, an accenting product or service is perfect. And for example, I am the facilitator of the Ohio Writers Guild in Central Ohio. And so I came alongside a publisher. Okay, well, they're not a facilitator of the Ohio Writers Guild. I'm the facilitator of the Ohio Writers Guild. They're a publisher. Well, guess what they have access to? A lot of authors. And guess what I need in the Ohio Writers Guild in order to have folks to interview on my podcast are authors. And so it's a perfect mix for us. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But then in April, and that's our March topic, but then in April, we go on and this is where we get down into the weeds a little bit. In April, we start talking about what platform are we going to put our website on? How is it going to look? How are we going to design that? Are we going to use funnels, or how do we use Canva? How do we link in and out? So we're going to get down into the weeds a little bit on website design. And then once we decide where our website is going to be, what platform it's going to be on, and a little bit how to maneuver and move around in it, now we're going to start creating our offers, whether it's products or services, whatever it is. We're going to talk about what should your free opt-in be, kind of like the Jimmy Dean sausage. You know, you go to Costco and the lady says, oh, have a taste. And you're like, oh yeah. So next thing you know, there's 3 boxes in your cart, you know. And so folks want to kind of test drive you. They want to see what you have to offer before they spend any kind of money on your products and services. So we talk about what is going to be your free opt-in, and we talk all about that in May. Then in June, it's your mid-level offer. Then in July, it's your core offer, which would be your bread and butter. It's the one that generates you the most income. And then in August, we talk about what is your top offer that makes you want to go celebrate, you know, when somebody purchases that one. And so now by August, you've got your business pretty well in order. You know your VPS, you've got your story crafted, you've lined up your influencers that you're serving because their audience is also your audience. You know what platform your website is going to be on. You've worked with that a little bit, and you've put together your first base, second base, third base, and fourth base home run offers. And so now, how are you going to get the message out? Now that you've got that kind of created, how are you going to let people know? So in September, we talk all about social media and how to get onto social media and some shorts and hacks and all these wonderful things about social media. And then in October, we talk about blogging. Blogging can be a business on its own, but it also can be a huge marketing tool for your business. So you don't have to just be a blogger. You can have other products and services and then point your blog back to those products and services. So blogging is a great way to advertise, but in itself, the blog can actually cash flow, because you can use affiliate links, you can accept sponsorships. I just now had a gal contact me, and she wants to sponsor my blog. And so now I'm trying to decide how I'm going to create my sponsorship sheet, because I hadn't quite reached that point yet in my blog that I was going to accept sponsors. And now I've got 2 folks that want to sponsor, and I'm like, oh, I better kind of get busy with that and get that together. So we're going to talk about that on how to monetize your blog. And then from there, it's podcasting. Podcasting is huge. And what is so easy about podcasting is that you can just pick a topic and do a Zoom call like we're doing today and then you can just upload that into a podcast channel and you've got a podcast. And so since this is one of our free calls, I am going to actually upload this one into Audio Boom. Audio Boom now goes out to 10 different podcast channels. Amazon Music has just picked me up because of our listenership in our podcast. And so now my podcast is getting traction. And so now I actually had one of my website platform companies contact me, and they want to host a podcast. And so what that means is they want me to put a little banner every time I do a podcast. They get a little advertising banner across the bottom. So now I'm monetizing the podcast. So you can see where it just grows into this business that has all these different income streams. And what happens is after a while, you'll be very pleasantly surprised at how things just kind of unfold for you. And then in December, our final topic is public speaking, which scares the bejeebies out of everybody. But that's what I want to say is that once you have your story, I even put out there to some of my influencers, I go, if you're doing a podcast, or if you've got interview sessions and somebody no-shows, call me at the last minute. I don't even have to prep because my story is my story. I don't have to sit down and write a speech. And I already have my media kit. And we talk about that when we talk about websites back in April. I already have my media kit and the 10 questions that people can ask me. So when they say, well, Kathy, I'm doing interviews and my girl just canceled, I don't have anybody for tonight, can you fill in and be my person that I interview? I'm like, sure, let me send you over my media kit. And it's the 10 questions that they ask me, which just brings out my message and my topics so well, they don't even have to do any homework. Like, what should I ask Kathy? What is she about? And that way the interview just gets right on track immediately. And then once that person realizes how easy it was to interview me, guess what they do? They tell all their friends that are also doing interviews. They go, yo, you need to have Kathy Bitter on because she's got a media kit. She's already got her 10 questions. There's even a paragraph that says what you need to know to make your folks believe that you've already read Kathy's book. And so that way, when they read that, they're like, oh, and I see you have a book. And so what it is, it's very conversational, but I just hand them all the information that they need. So I make it easy for them so that they do not have to do the heavy lifting. I try to make it easy. So that's what this topic or this course is all about. Now, this is the free one. And again, we meet the second Friday of every month at 10 a.m. But we have a mastermind. And I always have to look. The mastermind is, and I'll have to go to my calendar just because I've got 8 different lanes. And so I just have to make sure that I don't tell you wrong. The mastermind is the first Monday of every month at 12 noon. And again, it's on the calendar at kathybinner.com. Just scroll down to the calendar. And the mastermind is the first Monday at 12 noon. And this is where we get down into the weeds. We get down into a template on how to craft out your VPS. We have everybody share their storytelling and we critique each other. We list our influencers that we're going to serve and we talk about why they chose those particular influencers. So we just get down into the weeds a little more on the mastermind, and it's a smaller group and everybody gets to contribute. It's $25 a month. It's a membership site. You just join through kathybinner.com, Build a Better Business Mastermind. Just scroll down again, the homepage till you come to the Build a Better Business Mastermind. But when you scroll down, and you know what, I'm going to share my screen just to show you that so that you know what you're looking for. And bear with me here just a moment because I didn't have that pulled up. So I'm going to pull it up. My news comes on first. This is my website page. And we're going to talk about website design when we get into that month, which is in April next month. But as you scroll down, these are my 8 online programs. And so here, everyone is the same. It has a free meetup, the course, and the mastermind. And then when you go to the next one, it has a free meetup, a course, and a mastermind. And so all you're going to do is you're going to scroll down, and we've got all topics here. Everything's about passive income, by the way. Here is the Build a Better Business one, and here is the free meetup. This is the one that we're in today. If you click through here, you can listen to all the replays, but then it has a course and it has the mastermind. Now, the mastermind includes the course. So if you purchase the mastermind, don't buy the course too. It comes with it if you buy the mastermind. And what I want to say is anyone that's listening to this, Even if later on you're listening to this, if you decide you want to join any of the masterminds, contact me through the back of, and here's my little hamburger. Here's my contact page right down here. And there's my media kit I was talking about. Here's my contact page. You can contact me and tell me that you've joined, and I'll give you a second mastermind for free. And so if we scroll down, you might think, well, what else do I want? This is about being healthy. This is about long-term real estate. This is about short-term and mid-term real estate. This is about how to build a better business, which is the one we're in. This is about how to create and monetize a blog. So a lot of folks that are in this mastermind also want to do the blog mastermind. And you can have two. This one is about how to write from anywhere in the world and get published. And this one is all about connections over coffee. And we're talking about creating nonprofits. And then this one is all about how to have a mastermind, a masterclass, or a 5-day challenge and how to monetize that. Now, this could be one of your products inside your business. You know, you could have a masterclass or mastermind. So some of the folks on Build a Better Business, they want this one to be their second one. So those are my lanes. And so just remember, if you join one of the masterminds, you get a second one for free for the same $25 a month. So, and you get the courses that go with it. Okay. So that's about me. And I just wanted to show you up here, it's just at kathybenter.com. And so you can tap in at any time, and I'll even put that in the chat for folks that are maybe watching or tapping in later. Okay, question, Tish, yes.
Okay, to make sure I understand, so when I go to your website and scroll down to the Build a Better Business option, and I scroll over to the right, the mastermind, once I go there, I'm able to register for $25 a month. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
And then contact me and let me know which one you want to be your second free one.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because, and again, you can switch it up. If you do one and go, you know, I did the blogging one, but I'd rather do the, you know, the 5-day mastermind one. You can switch it up.
So if I come into the mastermind in March and you already discussed the value position and so forth, will we still be able to catch up, like have that discussion in the group to help those who came in later to have some feedback from the first 2 or 3 that they missed?
Absolutely. And they're all recorded.
Okay.
So you can go back and listen to the recordings and get caught up. But then if you have questions, yes, that's what the mastermind is. We leave no one behind. We take our time because we want to make sure. And some of these gals, this is their second time through the series, because they said it made sense the first time, but once they got clear to the end and they saw how it all fit together, it really made sense the second time. And so they're just staying in the mastermind. So they're huge contributors now because they've been down in the weeds and they've figured it out. And they've said, oh, well, this is how I started and this is what I now am doing. And it just works so much better now. And so, yeah, so folks I've had gals that have been with me now for 3 and 4 years, and they just keep adding stuff to their business. You know, they say, now I do want to be a public speaker. I didn't want to do that my first time through, but now I'm ready for that. And so now some of the gals are even kind of pressuring me, so to speak, to actually do a lane just on public speaking, because I have one just on blogging, and they want me now to do one just on podcasting and just on public speaking because now they're ready for that. They weren't ready for that their first couple of years. You know, they were still putting together their platform and figuring out what they wanted their message to be. So Tish, tell me a little bit about you. What is it that you're doing and what are your goals? What is it what's your dream?
Okay, so I'm a workforce development professional and I help youth identify what career path they want to be on through career readiness programs. Okay. I partner with families as well as organizations to provide the services to them, whether it's resume writing, career readiness courses, things of that nature.
Okay. And so you're putting yourself out there, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're putting yourself out there kind of as a coach. Mm-hmm. You're going to coach them to get from point A to point B, and then mm-hmm. you're going to have the resources for them to get there.
Correct.
Okay. Now, have you decided how you want that to look? Do you want it to be one-on-one? Do you want it to be in group settings or a little bit of both?
My goal is to work with organizations that already have my audience so that I don't have to do a lot of marketing to find them.
Okay.
And then with that being said, I'll be able to do it online as well as in class, in person. I prefer in person locally and then outside of my local area online.
So would this be like a one-on-one, like just to you
Group,
and your client, or a group?
group. It'll be a
Okay.
group of youth between the ages of 13 to 18. I'll break them up, of course, because there's different needs for different age brackets.
Okay.
But that's the audience I serve, youth between 13 to 18.
Okay. Okay. I get that. And so now you can connect with other organizations that already have that audience. So those are going to be your influencers. So that is the perfect segue for our topic today. Because again, like I said, when I became the facilitator of the Ohio Writers Guild and started, I needed an author to interview each month. But of course, the authors didn't know that I was there, and I didn't know exactly where all they were. And so I came alongside a publisher. And so the publisher was having these meetups. And of course, all of these wannabe and would be and new authors were showing up. And I watched as some of these folks actually got published. Then they wanted to market their book. You know, they wanted to get their message out. And so I came along this publisher and said, well, I have a podcast where I interview authors every month. And then I started asking some of his authors, I said, would you like to be interviewed? And they were like, well, yeah. And when he saw what was happening, he then brought a person in to teach how to create a media kit to all of these new authors. And so I loved coming alongside him because all his authors already had a media kit. And so they did all the heavy lifting. Again, all I had to do was take their one sheet and read the paragraph on what their book was about and their little biography on who they were, and they already had the 10 questions for me to ask them. And so as you're marketing what you're doing, having a media kit would be huge for you. And so that way you can get on podcast as a guest, and then when people interview you, your questions would lead them right to where it is you want them to take the conversation, to announce what it is you're doing and why you're doing it and why your message is so important and that sort of thing. And again, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to go here and down to my media kit. And so across the bottom of my contact page, I have my press media kit, my press release, and then guest appearances where they can schedule. So if I click on my media kit, it takes a moment for it to load because I've got so many windows open here. And this is my media kit. And what it does is it's why I decided to create my academy. And so then I just tell why my message is so important. And I have a quote here, because one of my lanes, if you'll remember when I showed you my website, one of my lanes is being healthy. And of course, that's kind of a disconnect for some people on what's that got to do with passive income. Well, this quote said it all by the Dalai Lama. It says, man sacrifices his health to make money, and then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And so that's why I always say that health definitely comes before wealth. Because again, if you end up spending all your money on medical bills, then what was the point? You know, if you worked yourself to death to earn the money and then you had to spend all the money to get your health back. So anyway, that is one of the reasons why I decided I needed to get out of the rat race. And so I then created this academy, Start Discovering Your Next Best Step. So see, I spell out exactly what it is that I do. And then I have my 8 different tracks to choose from. And it's the same. It just goes right down the road, just the way it did on my website. And then why is my message so important? So that needs to be in your media kit, why it was so important. And then my interview questions. And then after that, just a little bit about me and a testimonial, and then how to contact me. So that's the whole media kit. So for me, it's just 4 pages. Does that make sense? And if you have that, see, then you can just, anybody that contacts you and says, you know, can you be on my podcast, or can you be a speaker for us, or can whatever, you can just refer them to your website, to your media kit. If you want to open it up and get the link and email it to them, you could do that as well. You could say, let me send you my media kit. Or you can say, just go to my website, I have a media kit. But anyhow, that's going to make your life so much easier. Now, the problem is if you're at the very beginning or at the very top of this list of topics, you might say, I'm not sure what all my products are going to be. I don't know exactly what all I want to put in there. And that's why sometimes it's helpful to just kind of take the first year and create this. That's why we take these 12 steps to build a better business. And it is like building a house. You're building on each topic each month. And so for me, the publisher was one of my influencers. Another one was John Maxwell. Are you familiar with John Maxwell? Okay, believe it or not, and people don't believe this, John Maxwell was my pastor when I was 13 years old. The John Maxwell was my pastor in Lancaster, Ohio, of all places, when I was 13. And so, Tish, where are you coming to us from? Where are you located?
I'm coming to you from Ohio, Columbus area.
Okay, so I'm in Canal Winchester, so we're neighbors. Correct. So anyway, so you know where Lancaster is, or at least have heard of it. And so he was the pastor there at a church called Faith Memorial. And that's where I was in a little youth group. And that's where I first met John Maxwell. So I am John Maxwell certified. And once I became certified, I noticed that a lot of his folks, a lot of his teaching and training is starting with a mastermind. You know, that's a big money maker. And that can be one of your offers. You know, when you're doing, you know, your first base, second base, you could say, I'm going to do a 5-week mastermind on this particular topic. And he teaches that and promotes that. But a lot of his newbies, they were like, how do you do one of those? And they, you know, they listened to all the training and they were involved as a participant, but they never facilitated one. And so again, I created on one of my lanes, and you saw the lane where you can have a 5-day masterclass, mastermind, whatever. I created that lane because his audience was my audience. And what I do is I give those folks a chance to actually facilitate. So every 5 sessions, somebody else out of the audience volunteers to facilitate the next 5. And when we do that, they get to try it out. They get to, and it's among friends. We're all taking turns that are in that group, in that mastermind. We're all taking turns. And so nobody feels like they're on the hot seat. And then we can critique them afterwards on what they could do better, or, you know, or where there was maybe a lull in the conversation of what they maybe could have said to keep the conversation going. And so it's just a training ground. It's where they get to actually try it on before they're out there charging their customers to do a masterclass or a mastermind. And so you can see where I came alongside that group. I started showing up at all the events, and, you know, because his audience was my audience. Oh, Cheri's there. Sorry, Cheri, I didn't see you were there. Let me bring you up. And so anyway, that's another example of coming alongside an influencer. And now, and Cheri knows this last gal. She's coming up here. Cheri and I both are connected with this last gal I'm going to talk about. Hi, Cheri. Look how pretty today. See, I'm still in my ponytail. Cheri sometimes has her ponytail going too.
Well, bless you. Thank you. I don't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation. Sorry, I'm late. I just recorded opt-in video for my next project.
I cannot wait to talk to you. Cheri and I were supposed to hook up yesterday, but I had my big real estate lane yesterday and it was wild. And Cheri, we packed the room. It was a full house. And so I didn't get home until really late. I got to bed about 2 o'clock this morning. So yeah, so it's been crazy. I'll have to tell you about it. And it's one of my lanes. Tish is all about how to invest in real estate. And we had our newbie real estate investors last night in person in Columbus, Ohio. It's how to create passive income. And we did our, yeah. And we had our boots on the ground where we actually tour properties and show them what to look for and how to you know, build out their scope of work. And we had a speaker that talked all about building a scope of work. So anyhow, different lane, but same process.
dang, I really need to come to one of those one of these days.
It's once a month, and it's usually, and it just yesterday happened to be the day, and it was a blowout day. So Cheri, sorry I didn't get back to you yesterday. So we'll connect today for sure. So anyhow, the third example that I want to give, Trish, and Cheri will know this gal, and we're talking about today influencers again, like we did on our mastermind, is I wanted to be an early adapter to Clubhouse. When Clubhouse, are you familiar with what Clubhouse is, Tish? I know Cheri is. So anyway, I jumped on and I ran across this gal on Clubhouse, and I started listening in every morning. And so I thought, and she had quite an audience, and a lot of her audience was a lot of healthcare professionals. And again, remember, my first lane is about being healthy. And so I thought, oh, I really need to really get that launched. I hadn't launched it yet. And I thought, I really need to get that launched. This was like a year and a half ago. And so I thought, I'm going to come alongside this gal, and I'm going to just kind of be there. I'm just going to always, and the way I was going to serve her was I was just going to be dedicated, you know, because when you're trying to create something, it's nice that somebody shows up. So I thought, I'm just going to be dedicated. And so I started showing up every morning, even if I just kind of listened in. And after a while, she started calling me up and said, Kathy, what is your thoughts on the topic? And then after a while, she was like, I have to step away from the Clubhouse for a minute. Kathy, can you moderate for me? Next thing you know, I'm moderating her room for her. And then she was like, Kathy, I'm traveling next Tuesday. Can you actually run the event? So then I'm running the event for her. And I'm like, what? And all because she knew that she could count on me to show up every day. And so then she said, I'm going to have a speaking opportunity in Miami. And so Cheri, who's on the call now, and one of our other gals, Ruth, the three of us decided to actually go to Miami. And so we went to Miami, and I got to speak on stage, and Ruth got to speak on stage. And Cheri, I'm going to bring you into it in a minute here. And then she said, now I'm doing a collaborative book project. And of course, I've always wanted to be an author, which is why I ended up facilitating the Ohio Writers Guild, even though I wasn't an author yet. And she said, I'm doing a collaborative book project. And she said, and for a flat fee, she said, there's going to be 20 authors, and we're all going to push the project in the same direction. And it's going to come out on Amazon as a #1 bestseller. And she said, if you all do exactly what I say. And I thought, you know what? This train is going to go down the track, whether I get on it or not. And there's going to be 19 other authors that are going to be #1 authors at the end of this project. And if I don't get on the train, I'm not going to be. So I bit the bullet, wrote the check, said, I'm doing it. I got on. I am now a #1 seller author on Amazon because I decided to come alongside this gal on Clubhouse. So you see how serving an influencer just brings huge rewards. Anyway, I found my co-host, my co-mod for my Fit as a Fiddle Plus podcast on her Clubhouse call. Rita and I are now partners in our podcast, and we now are in year 2 of interviewing folks all about being healthy. And it has to do with mental health, physical health, emotional health. And then, of course, my other lanes are all about financial health. And so, Cheri, go ahead. I see the wheels turning.
There are 2 people that I met at the Grant Cardone conference that I need to share your name with them and see if you can blow up your Fit as a Fiddle.
Okay. And you see, and that's how it works is networking, but coming alongside folks is how that works. And Tish, I see that you have your hand up, but I'm going to jump over to Cheri for just a moment, because now Cheri has also been in that group with the same gal for as long as I have. And Cheri is now in her second collaborative book. Cheri is already a published author, but Cheri is now going to be published a second time. And I can guarantee you, Cheri is going to be a #1 selling author, because that's just how Wendy rolls. And so my point is that coming alongside these influencers is huge for your business and for your goals and your dreams. And yet, Tish, what's your question or comment?
In the past, I did come alongside someone who was an influencer, not necessarily in my lane, but in my community.
Uh-huh.
And so that really helped me to boost my original product, which was resume writing. You talked about first base, second base, and home run. So my second base is resume writing because that's the lowest hanging fruit. And
Okay.
what I came across was that the conversations were mainly focused around her and not us. And I wasn't too sure if it was supposed to be like a contractual situation because I didn't know if it became a monetized video. I'm sorry, live streams and YouTube type of situation that she and or I will get the money. I didn't know how that worked because the videos we could post on YouTube and we could use that platform to monetize. So, but I didn't know if we're co-hosting, if that was going to become an issue, if we could monetize the YouTube page, channel in the
It
future.
it it depends. It depends on how she sets that up. Because here's this, and I'll just kind of give you an example. With Wendy, when I came alongside her, I did not want to rain on her parade at all. I wanted to just promote her because I was there and she was trying to launch something. She was trying to build something. And so I just wanted to promote her. And what I learned is, and again, this is a philosophy I've always had, is the law of reciprocity. I know that whatever I give, I'm going to get. I knew that I wanted to come alongside her and just be dedicated to her message. And her message was to build, hers is all about speakers. I didn't necessarily even want to be a speaker, but I knew that all of those speakers had a message, had a business, had a product, had a service, which is my audience. And so I just came alongside her and just promoted everything she was doing. And then she in turn started promoting me. I didn't promote myself. Now, she has her clubhouse room, and what she did offer, and again, this again goes back to your conversation. She said, I want everyone that is in my speaker society, if you have a message, please have a room in my, please have your message here in my room. Create your own spot and advertise it and get it out there. And she offered that to us for free. She says, you don't have to pay anything to be in my room. She said, or you can go start your own. But she said, if you're more comfortable, because see, if it's in her room, every time you do something, the announcement goes out to her audience, which was a whole lot bigger than my little audience. And so, so she said, go ahead and promote your message as long as, we can coordinate dates and times so we're not stepping on each other at the same time. She said, you can use my room. And so she offered that. So in your instance, you have to just have the conversation with the person. If you reach that level of relationship with them, it's just have the conversation and say, exactly what am I allowed to do? I don't want to step on your toes, and just be honest and frank with them, because they're trying to build something. And you're trying to build something. And so all you want to do with them is just say, I really want to come alongside and help you build what you're building. And I just don't want to step on your toes. What is it that you don't want me to do? Because I don't want it to interfere with what you're doing. And then they'll make it clear. They'll say, oh yeah, you can do that. You can advertise that, or you can do that. And I do that with my gals all the time. And Cheri will tell you, I'm like, tell us what you're doing and what your projects are. Because even if, here's something else I've learned. Even if we're kind of in the same lane, generally our audiences are going to start to separate a little bit. Because if I'm coaching passive income and somebody else is coaching passive income, we're going to have that different way to do it. The other night, I went to a real estate meetup on Tuesday night. And then, of course, my big one was last night. But I went on Tuesday night, again, because this audience is the same in Columbus, Ohio. And it was clear up in Worthington. And so I go up there and I go to this meetup, and 2 or 3 people that have known about me, but not necessarily connected in. It's kind of in the back of the mind, like someday I need to connect with Kathy. Like Cheri just said, I need to go to one of those someday. When I went there, 2 or 3 people, when they saw me, they said, oh, I've been meaning to go to your event. And last night they did. So we packed the room last night. And because all I did is I just showed up at another event, that had the same audience. And so then last night, our room was packed out. So As a matter of fact, packed out to the point where, are you ready for this, Cheri? I might have to find a bigger spot to meet up. This was only our second in person since we started going back in person, and we've packed the room already. So I was very happy with that.
All right, because it was like me inviting her to my platform, but she brought her audience to my platform. And the conversation, because I didn't have the media kit, we couldn't steer the conversation. So that's a good way to look at it. Like if I had those questions up front, we would know exactly what we were getting ourselves into, and it will allow us that both have space to converse and, you know, express ourselves regarding the topic. And then also, like you said, in the future, if I have that kind of relationship again, where I ask somebody if they are willing to help me grow my platform, they can know, like, hey, if you help me grow my platform, I just want to understand what can I do with or without the content. You know, if I can post it here or post it there, and so forth. So that's good to know.
Whose platform were you on? Were you on yours or hers?
So this is the weird thing. Okay, I asked for her to help me grow my business. So she created the platform. It was posted on her social media, but the conversation was stemming from my field and my interest in what I'm doing. So it was kind of weird. I think I should have led with my own platform instead of vice versa. So it would be more clear.
Now,
but I didn't know how to do it. It was my first time.
Well, here's what I did that really helped me with Rita. When I met Rita on Wendy's Clubhouse, and Rita and I decided to step away from Wendy's Clubhouse and to start this health lane, this Fit as a Fiddle Plus, the two of us. And I was the host. I was the creator. It was going to be on my platform. I was going to house all the replays and all that. But because Rita is bringing her entire audience along, and I'm, of course, building my audience, she's building her audience. What I did is I wanted to put us on equal footing. And so what I do when I start the Zoom call like this, because it's a live Zoom call, and then we record it and we put it out as an event and people can tap in. So we have different people every month. I tell about what I do. I share my screen. Here's my page, just like I did with you, Tish. And I let people know exactly what I'm doing and how they can connect with me. And then I introduce Rita as my co-host, my co-mod, and then I give her the same amount of time to share her screen on what she's doing and what her message is. And then once we both complete that, then we introduce our presenter for the night on whatever, and we let them share their screen, and then we're going through their media kit and we're interviewing them. But basically, I got to advertise what I do. She got to advertise what she does. And then we interview the actual person that is our guest for that evening. And then all of that gets posted. Then my job is more technical, is once I get that Zoom recording done, I upload that Zoom recording into my Teachable platform as a replay. But I upload it into Vimeo, I upload it into YouTube, I upload it into my podcast channel, which then shares it with like 10 other podcast channels. And then I put all of that in an email with all those links, and I send it out to Rita and to the presenter. And I say, here is all our replays, use these however you wish. So Rita has a whole separate podcast. Are you ready for this? And she uses the exact same replay that I did the recording on my Zoom call. She uses that exact same replay and puts it on her own podcast channel.
That's good to know, because that gives her the opportunity to monetize it on her platform if she chooses to, and I can do the same. It's not like we have to sit down and have a formal contract or agreement. Okay, that helps to clear it and not make it so muddy. Thank you.
Okay. So anyhow, that's what works for me. And again, here's what I know, and Cheri's heard me say this 100 times. You could take every single thing that you do and you could package it all up in a nice, cute little box with a big bow on it and hand it out for free. And only a handful of people would even open it and do anything with it, because a lot of people are like, I'm afraid that somebody's going to steal all my stuff, steal my content, duplicate what I'm doing. Nah, most people aren't that ambitious. And so I don't worry about that. You know, I don't want to have that scarcity mindset where I hold on to stuff, which is why when I come on this call, even though it's for free, I teach, and Cheri will tell you, I teach and present the same here as I do on our mastermind, but we have much deeper conversations, although with just 3 of us, we're having a pretty good one today. But this is kind of how the masterminds look, as we mastermind issues and questions and problems and keep going. Yeah. So Cheri, did you have a question, comment?
Yeah, Tish. So I also had some circumstances where I've partnered with people. And one of the things that my current business partner and I have worked out is I'm doing all the technical work. Okay. We are co-writing a book together. So anything that's related to that book, we are also 50-50 sharing the profits. So it's maybe a little step beyond what you did, but this is how it built. And it took us, Kathy, like 5 years to get to this point?
Yeah. And Cheri, by the way, is in the middle of writing 2 books at the same time. So just so you know.
No,
4. Okay. Oh.
So long, that's a sidebar. But so this business partner relationship and I, what we have done is I'm doing all the technical work. She fronted some funds to one part of the project. I'm fronting funds to another part of the project. When that equals out, we are splitting 50-50. Okay. So one of the things that I do is what my expenses are. I'm tracking those. But if we have revenue coming in, we also split that 50-50. And to minimize every entity in the world, every bank in the world taking extra from us as we're transferring money back and forth, is we are using Zelle. So once the money comes into my bank account, I Zelle her 50% of that difference. So we're taking the expenses off the top and we're splitting the revenue differences. So keep that thought process in mind as you may want to go back to that person and share. But also we each have our own list. We are also 100% utilizing the names that we're gathering on our individual lists.
Thank you. That's very helpful because I don't know if we can talk offline, but I would like to see what a contractual agreement looks like for that type of relationship, because I believe once we reach out to influencers, it's possible, we can collaborate on other things, and that may be useful.
Can I make a true confession here? We're recording. She and I have a verbal contract.
And with Rita and I, because when I share my screen, when we're doing our Zoom call for our Fit as a Fiddle Plus, and I advertise everything I'm doing, and then I hand the mic over to her and she advertises everything she's doing. My clients, I keep that money, and the people that sign up for her program, she keeps that money. And we're just using our podcast as a marketing tool to basically advertise ourselves and to help advertise and highlight, whoever our guest is for that month. It's our way of giving back. But as you can see, because we're announcing who we are and what we do, we're getting as much mileage out of that Zoom call as that guest is.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And you mentioned how you're getting sponsors and so forth too. So it's like,
now when we
monetize that opportunity. So
now whenever we bring in a different guest, that guest brings his or her audience, because they've been bragging for a week, hey, I'm going to get interviewed. You guys should tap in and listen. So now all of a sudden we bring in a different guest every month. That guest is bringing their audience with them every month to listen to basically our pitch. And then we get to lift up and promote that guest, which is a win-win. And then when I copy all those replays and send it out, Rita's blasting it everywhere, I'm blasting it everywhere, and the guest is blasting it everywhere. And so now more people are tapping in every month to see who's going to be on next month. And so it grows. And so then when we start to get a lot of listens, because I upload, like I said, I upload it into Vimeo, I upload it into YouTube, and I upload it into my Audio Boom. And then the Audio Boom puts it out across 10 different podcast channels. Now I'm getting messages and emails. I want to sponsor your podcast. I want to sponsor your blog. I want to sponsor, your groups, your masterminds. And I'm like, I don't have a sponsorship sheet yet. I got to do that. So I worked on it this week, and I've got 2 people now that want to sign up as soon as I send it out to them. And so, it just kind of grows on its own. Yeah. It just keeps coming.
Tish, do you have a podcast?
Well, she says no, but I'm going to say not yet.
Yes, thank you. And yes, not yet. That's the answer, because I do believe I should be using that platform, but I'm still working on my messaging.
Okay, here's my pitch to you. Stop working on your messaging and just get out there. Just start by asking questions. Record the questions as a podcast. And then you are learning about your own messaging over time. And once you get once you clarify your message, that podcast ends and a new one begins.
Now, I have an easy way, and I'll just bring it right down to the nuts and bolts. So what you need to do is, once you know generally what your lane is going to be, find an influencer that is also, do just what I did with Rita. Find an influencer who also wants to build their business, and ask them if you can interview them, and create a Zoom call where you meet up once a month at the same time every month, like every 3rd Monday at 6 or every 4th Tuesday at 7 or whatever, and pick a time, create a name for your podcast. Don't make it too narrow. Don't make your name so narrow that you can't grow beyond it if you decide you want to include other products. And we talked about that in blogging, when they pick a blog name, and I'll go through that in just a minute. But once you create a name for your podcast, and go ahead and find a platform to put it on, and there's hundreds out there, and you can just Google, what's a great blogging or a great podcast platform, and a whole bunch of them will come up, and you can decide your price point and all of that. There is no wrong one. Getting started is more important than picking the perfect platform. And so pick one, and then just do your Zoom call, interview somebody, and then just keep the recording, keep the replay, upload it into, because you're going to do video and audio, and just upload it into Vimeo. You can make it private, because that's a great backup. Upload it into YouTube. You can make that one private if you want. You don't have to. You can make it public if you're good with it, and then upload the audio portion of it. Zoom automatically separates that for you, and upload the audio portion of it over into your podcast platform, and hit publish, and just publish those interviews. You will be amazed at how much your business will start to grow. And as you interview folks that are in your lane, you'll start to say, oh, I need to have a product for that. Oh, I need to create a course for that. And so all of a sudden it'll happen. So what Cheri is saying is start first and get clarity second. Because if you wait for clarity, you never pull the trigger. You never start.
So here's an experience I had, and this is how Kathy works. I was talking about my podcast and what I wanted to name it. And she's like, Cheri, can I talk with you? And we did a one-on-one conversation, and she went onto this platform, and she's like, okay, give me your keywords. We plugged in keywords, and she's like, I would suggest that you use this word instead of that word. And so the podcast changed from, I don't even remember what it was. It had the word dysgraphia in it, and it changed to the writing glitch. And then in my logo, I put the word dysgraphia. So the podcast name is The Writing Glitch, Hacking Dysgraphia, No Pencil Required.
Now, on that same vein, here's what I want to say. I'm guilty of always thinking too narrow. Now they say you need to really niche down to really get, and you can do that in your different lanes. But when you first get started, you might think you're going to go this direction, but then you find that your audience is a little more over here, that the organic audience that just comes to you is over here. And I'll give you a perfect example. I started a salon back in the day called All About Nails, and then hairstylist wanted to come on board. I'm like, well, what do I do with that? It's all about nails. So I had to change my name a year in to All About You Salon Suites so that I could bring in hairstylists. And so had I just not gotten so narrow at the beginning, I wouldn't have had to change my name a year in and change all my logos and change all my websites and change all my signage. And, and I had to do all of that just a year in because I thought too narrow at the time. And so what I suggest you do is make a list of everything that you want to talk about. Make a list of everything that you're interested in and see. And for me, that's where that health came in there, along with real estate and blogging and podcasting and traveling. And I've got all these lanes because I now have tribe trips on my site. And everybody's like, what's that got to do with anything? And so what I realized was after I made a list of everything that I was interested in, I thought, what is the common thread that I can weave down through all those topics? What is the common thread? And for me, I thought, well, I want passive income. So I said, okay, I'm a passive income coach. Well, what's that got to do with health? And so then I thought, how can I connect those together? And so I thought, well, what I really want is the passive income will allow me to have a freestyle life where I can travel, I can work from anywhere in the world, I can write from anywhere in the world, I can create passive income, I can just live life on my terms. And so my overarching message is freestyle living. So I named my blog and my podcast Freestyle Living. Because now I can talk about health, I can talk about real estate investing, I can talk about traveling, I can talk about creating products and services. See, it's all about freestyle living and doing and living anywhere in the world. As long, and my motto, as long as I have my laptop and a Wi-Fi, I can be anywhere. And so I get to test that. So this year we are going to Italy and I get to test doing my show from Italy. So, and I'm excited. Mark says, why don't you just let your co-mods, handle it? And I said, no. I want to do it from Italy because that's my thing is I want to be able to work from anywhere in the world. And if I can pull this off now, they tell me the Wi-Fi is a little sketchy in Italy and that I might have to buy a little hotspot once I get over there. And I don't know that for sure. I'll have to figure that out. But anyway, I'm excited to figure it out. So that's where I'm at. So anyway.
We have people producing podcasts off boats in the middle of the ocean.
I know, but you got to have a strong Wi-Fi to do that. So I just don't know my way around Italy enough to know where to get this hotspot yet, but and I don't speak Italian. But I'll figure it out. So anyway, so you see where I'm going with that, Tish, is to make a list of everything that you think you might want to build products and services around, and then see what the common thread is and come up with an umbrella type message over all of those products and services. And that's what you call your podcast, your blog post. And again, I'm going to share my screen if it'll let me here. And I want to show you how I kind of built that in. Let me go back to my website, to my homepage. This is my VPS right here. And Tish, we talked about in January, we built our VPS. Mine is teaching you how to be healthy and how to create passive income, coaching you how to get there faster, design your path so that you can experience freestyle living. So that's where I incorporated all of that into my website. And so then as you come around, you can do a strategy call, a free meetup, which is what we're on today. You can click into the courses, the masterminds, which includes the course, one-on-one coaching, the freestyle living trips. And that makes you, on any of these, makes you a part of the freestyle living tribe. So even if you just did a strategy call, you're part of the tribe. You see the arrows? Even if you just did a free meetup, you're still a part of the tribe. You're immediately, anytime you connect in any of these 6, you're a part of the tribe. So you can see how, again, it's your freestyle living strategies. You see where I'm going with that? So that's my overarching message. And so that's what I want to share with you, is to think about, what is your overarching message? Cheri, what is your overarching message on all of your lanes? Because I know you're tying several things together.
My overarching message is that we today can create tomorrow's leaders, and we can do it regardless of disability.
So she started off where she was just going to teach people about dysgraphia. And she started off publishing a book about dysgraphia, and she was going to create a course and everything and coaching around dysgraphia. But her message, see, because she started first, her message is now bloomed into, I'm helping create leaders. It's more than just helping someone with dysgraphia. She is now helping create leaders for tomorrow. And see, your message, Tish, with what you're telling me you want to do, your message could be something like that.
Yeah, originally I had started out thinking it was going to be focused on how to improve the workforce for minorities, especially African Americans, because I'm a single Black mom. And I realized by doing research in Ohio in particular, the single Black woman household without a husband is the highest percentage of poverty. So I'm trying to
make sure you weave that story. That's the cornerstone of your business right there.
Yeah. And because I'm the head of my household, I have to figure out what works for me and my family. And that entails how we do education, like this kind of schooling we want for our families, because I believe that we pick schools based on the quality of the education and how it meets the needs of our family dynamics. So that's very important to me. So with that being said, I want to make sure that parents understand their options as far as schooling and figure out how that meets the needs of their family. Also understanding how to help their kids to avoid being a statistic, right? Being in that high percentage of poverty, by helping them identify their skill sets and talents so they can start doing career readiness. So
boy, that's
all part of my story.
And I know I'm over talking you, and avoiding the school to prison pipeline.
Exactly. And so I'm trying, that's the whole thing. It's like, getting out of poverty and how to do that, how to transform the way we look at life and how we do life.
Tish, you need to come back to this recording after I post the replay. You need to come back and you need to take what you just said in that little segment, and that is your perfect About Me page.
Oh, okay.
Do you agree, Cheri? If I were connecting with Tish and I clicked on her, well, what is she about anyway? And I clicked on that and I saw that was her message, I would say I definitely want to connect with her.
And I'm a family ambassador here in the city. So all I do every day, Monday through Friday, is connect families who are in low income situations to public resources.
So without breaching HIPAA and the confidentiality and all those things, those stories, you can elaborate on them on a podcast. Like, that's your podcast. Is, oh my gosh, I met this mom today and she was in this situation. This is how I helped her, and come back 6 months later, this is where she's at today, kind of a thing. So it might not be that you can share the immediate story, but that this is what happened over 6 months' time. This is where she is now. This is where she started.
Well, and even a step further, can you, and I don't know, again, can you stay in contact with the folks that you help, or no?
I believe I can.
Because of the HIPAA and all of that, you could, I'm just thinking outside the box, you could maybe follow a couple of your stars and just interview them. And how did this change your world?
Yeah, that will take a speaker's agreement.
Okay.
when you do that kind of a thing, you will need a speaker's agreement. There's some out there on Google, but there are some other ways that you can get better ones.
Okay.
And
That
in our mastermind, we have a resource center, and we're constantly adding. And so
Okay.
that's probably one of the things I need to look at adding to the resource too.
and I just wrote one, Kathy.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm
Thank you,
making a
ladies.
note now.
Okay, so like I secretly want to cry, but I'm like, we're live. It's like we're recording. I don't want to see that in
Cry.
the
It's
future.
okay. We understand.
It's like I'm
Yes.
finding my
What
community, and I appreciate it.
This is what we enjoy doing. I'm sorry, I'm talking over people today.
No, I get it. And Cheri, you're absolutely right. I love seeing somebody, I love seeing the lights come on and somebody saying, I can do this. I can do this. I now have some tools to do this. Because we all have that message. And here's what I tell some of my group often, because, you know, they kind of drag their feet a little bit. And I say, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Did the need for your message come first, or did your message come first? If the need for your message came first and you have the message and you're not sharing it, how many people are out there struggling because they haven't heard your message yet? And so if God has put a message in your heart, I believe the need was already there. And it's just your time to share the message.
So can
Tish really is going to cry.
So I want to share a little story with you. And this was a very recent realization to me. And I put a message in the chat that says,
I saw that.
Downloads your message years before you receive it. And I was at a women's conference, the Women of Faith conference. I'll be quite honest which one it was. I am listening to a speaker talking about God giving her messages while drinking coffee. I've never drank coffee before in my life. And she was like, well, this is how it started with me drinking coffee. Is my grandmother would put just a little bit in my milk and fill up the glass with milk. And now it's the other way around, where I have just a little bit of milk and all that coffee. But the messages, and then she went on, like she was talking and embellishing this whole book that she had just written about lessons that she received by drinking coffee. But what happened to me during that conference, during that speech, and remember, I'm in a crowd of 100% women, okay? I literally heard a male voice audibly say to me, "You will be on that stage someday." And I went, "What?" And evidently I turned white as a ghost. I fell on my chair, and like everybody's looking around like, "What happened to you? Are you okay?" Because, you know, she had you motivationally, she had you standing up, and you know how that is during some of those presentations. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what the heck just happened to me? And it kind of like got put to the side. And just recently, I received a contract to speak in front of 140 people, probably on a regular standards kind of stage. And it hit me recently. God told me that when my son was 2. He's 22 today.
So that was definitely years before. Yes. I love it. I love it. And we a lot of times we also have speakers in our lives too. And I remember in the salon industry, there was a gal that was one of my hairstylists. Yeah, she's drinking coffee now. And there was one of my hairstylists, and at the time I promoted, see, I've been entrepreneurial from the beginning. I promoted that all of my stylists and nail techs do something in addition to hair and nails. So I said, you know, get into an MLM, because you've got a built-in audience that's coming in and sitting in your chair week after week after month after year. And you could monetize something else while you're monetizing your services. And so we had gals that did Pampered Chef. We had gals that did Avon. And I decided to do Mary Kay. That was going to be my side gig. And so one of the other hairstylists was also a Mary Kay consultant. So the two of us would go to those Mary Kay conventions all over the place. And she turned to me one day and she said, someday you're going to be on stage. And I was like, no, I'm never going to be a public speaker. No, 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 no. Well, you know, now I'm all over the place. So, and so like Cheri, that seed was planted many, 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 many years ago. And I resisted it then because I thought, oh, I want no part of that. And of course, last night I just ended up hosting and speaking to a room full of real estate investors, and some of them are pretty big hitters. And so I was like, hey, it's all good. You know, this is where I am. So I think we grow into it.
Yep. And my business coach, here I am putting this out there to the world. My business coach, who is, in addition to Kathy, I have another one. And that business coach challenged me this year, back in February, to be on other people's stages, one in person every month and 52 weeks a year. So how many is that? 52 plus 12 comes out to what? 64? 64 times to be in front of other people. This is a virtual other person's stage. It's Kathy's stage. It's not my stage. It's Kathy's stage. And here I am speaking, even though we're speaking to other people. It's another person's stage. I can count that as one of my 52. Check, check.
Now, and let me share this with you. Because I just now have some folks that are saying they want to sponsor some of the stuff that I'm doing. And I'm like, what? I haven't been promoting to get sponsors. So now I've got to put together my sponsor sheet. And Ruth's been helping me, by the way, Cheri. And so she's another gal in our group. So at this point, when I put together the sponsor sheet, I had to go out and piece together my different Facebook groups and my Instagram and my LinkedIn and my podcast and my blog and what is my actual reach. And so, Cheri, you can make a little note of this since you were here today. Once this goes up into the podcast, our reach is 32,000 a week. So anyway, just so you know.
I'm not spelling, I can never spell his name right, but I recommend to you, if you wanted to look at sponsorships, check out Kevin Schmidlin's podcast. It's called Grow Your Show. And then do a query on when he talks about sponsorships. Amazing guy. Amazing.
All right.
And what he has done is similar to what you have done. He takes his podcast episodes, puts them then in the right order, because they're kind of all over the place sometimes. He puts them in the right order, and he is selling his podcast episodes to a group. Plus he adds coaching to it for big bucks.
Yeah.
Not participating, but his podcast, I love it. So I'm endorsing that right now on your thing, Grow Your Show by Kevin Schmidlin. It will change your life if you want to podcast.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. It's definitely worth a look. Thank you, Cheri. I appreciate that. And so we have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm trying to spell his name. That is not correct. So when you go to look, it's kind of those letters together, but I know my spelling is not correct.
Okay. I'll check it out. My guess is if I Google him, it'll come up at some point and I'll be able to sort out that that's who it is. Okay. I will check that out. And then Cheri, at some point, I would love, if you wouldn't mind sharing, I would love to maybe see your speaker's agreement so that we can add a version of that. I don't want to just copy what you're doing, but add a version of that on our resource to help some folks get started that are heading that direction. So I love it. Tish, tell us, what was your big takeaway for today?
Get started, just do it.
Cheri, thank you for that. That was Cheri's advice. Get started, just do it. Start first, clarity second. Yes, I love it. And my big takeaway is that my message is important. It is important for me to show up. It doesn't matter how many people come onto a call. Sometimes we've had 10, 12, 20 people. on our free meetups. And sometimes it's just me and Cheri and one other person. And so again, for those that are just getting started, I got a little hack. Let me show you. You're going to laugh because I kept it here for this reason. And Cheri, you'll recognize the cover of the book. This is from this is from a conference that Cheri and I both went to. Yeah,
I have more than one.
Yeah. So anyway, my fear was that if I went onto a Zoom call and no one showed up, I still needed to present my topic for that day so that I could upload it into the course. So what I did is, in the real estate industry, many of you might know this or might not know this, that in the real estate industry, they really promote that you put your picture on your business card. A lot of realtors will have their picture. And since I network and rub elbows with a lot of realtors, I have a lot of real estate cards. And so I had gone to a real estate meetup the night before, and the next morning, this was real early on, and I tapped in and there was no one. It was just me. There was no one on the call but me. And I thought, okay, Kathy, you still have to present. Can you present energetically to an empty screen? So I took my book and I taped 3 real estate business cards with their faces. I put this right in front of my camera, and I talked to Rocky, Gabby, and Beth. And so they were my guests that day. And so again, I just presented as if they were live right there with me. And I just presented to the 3 of them, and it allowed me to get through that. And so there's all kinds of hacks. I have another girlfriend. She's creating videos on how to organically put together meals. And so she wanted to have like this little cooking show on her countertop, her breakfast bar. And she had her camera and she was recording how you blend this and how you do a pinch of that. And it was actually an organic cooking show. And she wanted to upload these videos, and she was having a hard time looking energetic and looking focused. And so she lined up a bunch of teddy bears on the other side of her breakfast bar. So she basically taught her cooking show to her 3 or 4 teddy bears.
I have a friend who has somehow or another has attached a headshot of somebody to the back of their camcorder. So they're always looking at the camcorder. Edwards, come on. Jim, thank you. His name slipped me for a moment. He actually shows, and he turns around and shows the camera. He has 2 big red arrows that he has taped. It's like, look at the blue dot, because he was having one of these things where he was constantly looking down at the microphone, and he was never looking at the microphone. And he actually shares on his podcast when he does the video version, the behind the scenes, he turns the camera around kind of a thing, and he shows what he has done to help him look and get the podcast out. So there's tricks that you can use. There's 3 different ideas or 4 different ideas where you've got like the headshot on the stick that's right behind. You've got the teddy bears. You've got Kathy with her on the back of the book, or arrows shining at the blue light next to the camcorder going, look here.
Uh-huh. So these are all the things that we get down in the weeds with in the mastermind. So today we've conducted this more as a mastermind because there was just 3 of us and it worked out really well. So Tish, thank you so much for being on with us today. This has been a lot of fun. Please, KathyBenner.com, click through and join in the mastermind and be a part of our tight little group here. And we learn together, we grow together, we travel together, we do all those things together. We're in each other's corner. And so again, Cheri, you are in Pittsburgh, or not Pittsburgh, in Pennsylvania, close to, what is the town you're closest to?
Allentown.
Okay. And so Cheri comes over here often, and I have a bed and breakfast in my home. And so when Cheri comes over, she hopefully gets to either stay with me or her business partner, Jonna Lee. Jonna Lee is what, Westerville?
No, Pataskala.
Oh, Pataskala. Oh, that's right. Yeah, she's out in Pataskala. So anyway, Cheri does come over to see us occasionally whenever she can. And then we have writers conferences. There's all kinds of things that you can participate in, Tish. So feel free.
And one of these days, Mark is going to fly to Reading.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And we are going to do up the town. And March is a really good time because the Jazz Fest is in town.
Oh, when is it?
March.
What date?
It's all month.
Oh, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. At least it used to be. I think it's still around. It may have crashed and burned with COVID, but
okay.
Yeah,
we'll check it out.
All month long, there was concerts.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you for being with us, Tish. We're going to go. And again, tap through kathybenner.com, look at all the replays, join all the free stuff. Yeah, you can tap into all the free stuff and then join a mastermind if you want to. And if you do decide to join a mastermind, let me know what you want your second one to be, and I'll give you a second one for free. So, Cheri, thank you so much for being on today. It's good to see you.
You.
Anyway, I am going to stop recording, and we'll see everyone next month.